Not many of my videos have a bold title like today's does, which is Getting Rich is Easy. Subtitle, After the First 100K. So I've got a big promise I have to deliver on, but you know what? I know I can do it because today I'm going to stand on the shoulders of one of the best investors ever. The gentleman's name is Charlie Munger. Many folks may not have heard of Charlie, but Charlie was Warren Buffett's not really right-hand man, but really equal partner in building one of the most valuable companies in the world, in building some of the biggest net worths, his and Warren Buffett's. So, and Charlie was famously asked by a young person, what do I need to do to get rich? And Charlie's answer really stunned people for two reasons. One, the simplicity of his answer, but two, because he swore. I'm going to take out the swear word, but here's basically what he said. Getting to your first $100,000 is a bear, but you got to do it. Do what it takes. Now, Charlie didn't say bear, he used another B word, but hopefully you'll excuse me for not swearing in this video. So, I think our experience has all shown that, it is hard to get to that first $100,000, but if we can do that, our money starts working for us as hard as we're working for our money. And let me illustrate that with an easy example. Let's say you're able to save $10,000 a year, and let's say you only get 4% a year on that money. So the first year you save $10,000, but you know what? Next year it gets a little bit easier because that $10,000 is earning that interest on it, right? So if it's going to take you 8.5 years to get to the first $100,000. So Charlie said you got to do what you need to do, and hopefully you can get 4% a year. But for the sake of illustration, it takes 8.5 years to save up your first 100,000. But your next $100,000 only takes 6.5 years. Why? Because you have that first $100,000 working for you. And after 20 years, you're going to have saved up $400,000, which is a long time and it's a lot of work. But guess what? You're going to have saved $300,000 after your first 20 years. But guess what happens after that? In the next 20 years, you're going to go to $1 million. So you're going to the first 20 years was $300,000. In the next 20 years, because you have that money working for you, you're going to get more than double that amount. You're going to actually gain another $700,000. So at the end of the 40 years, you're going to have $1 million. And importantly, after the first couple of years, your money starts working harder for you than you're working for your money, right? And it's the concept of compounding interest. And compounding interest is so important. But it's important to realize compounding interest works both ways. Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger's partner, famously said that compounding interest is the 8th wonder of the world. And I don't know if I agree with him. I think it's wonderful, but is it one of the 8th wonders? I don't know. But compounding is wonderful when it's working in your favor, but there's also a caution. If you're earning less than inflation every year, compounding works against you. Every year it gets harder to make more money from a purchasing standpoint. So compounding works both ways. You can think of an analogy of a snowball. And when compounding's working for you, you got this little snowball and it starts rolling downhill and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger every year, which is what we all want when it comes to our bank account. Maybe not with our waistlines, but definitely with our bank account. But if you're not investing your money, remember, one of the things I say is it's not enough to save. We have to invest our money. We have to get more than inflation, so our purchasing power continues to increase, and so that compounding works in our favor. So would you rather have a small snowball when it comes to your bank account, a small snowball that grows into a big snowball, or would you rather have small snowball that grows into that shrinks into an even smaller snowball? Right? We all want the bigger snowball at the end of the day. And let me give you another example. Getting that first $100,000 is hard. And it's not just normal hard. This is really hard, right? You've got to sacrifice today, hopefully for a better tomorrow. Your current self is sacrificing for your future self. But even, many of us can save $500 a month. I'm not saying that that's easy, but many of us can do that. And what happens at $500 a month? And instead of growing at 4%, let's say it grows at 10%, which admittedly is aggressive. That's probably an all equity portfolio, but just for the sake of math, to illustrate compounding, if you save $500 a month, in your first year, you're going to save $6,000, and the interest on that $6,000 at 10%, or the earnings, is going to be $600. So the next year, when you save $5,000, though, you've got $10,000 that's earning $1,000, plus you've got the $600. Anyways, that's a lot of numbers. But very quickly, that money, within 7 years, what you've been saving is now going to be giving you an earning stream that's higher than the $500 a month you can put in. So within 7 years, if you're putting in $500 a month, $6,000 a year, your nest egg is within 7 years is going to be working as hard for you as you are. So it's going to be putting into your bank account $6,000 a year in addition to your $6,000, and you can see very quickly where that money is going to start working harder for you than you are for it. And that's where I want you to get. I want you to get there. So getting rich can be easy, but you got to get through that first 100,000. So how hard is it to achieve that first 100,000? It's not going to be easy. I wish it was, but let's just be candid with each other. It's not easy to do. In fact, if you look at the data, only 15% of all American adults have 100,000 or more in liquid assets, for most of us, outside of our mortgage. So this is in, your brokerage account, that maybe you're doing investments in your bank account. So fewer than 15% of US adults have a liquid balance of $100,000. Now, as we get older, it becomes, we're saving up money for a longer period of time. It becomes easier, but it's still not easy. Only 25% of adults age 55 to 64 have $100,000 of liquid assets, primarily outside of their home. And at 65 plus, only 40% of adults have $100,000 or more saved up. In fact, what percent of people 65 years of age and higher have $1 million net worth? What do you think that number is? It's certainly not easy to save $100,000, but I just recently had somebody in my comments, and this is not financial advice. I cannot give you financial advice. I don't know your situation, but somebody asked in the comments, I've only got $1 million. Can I retire? And what my answer was is, I can't answer that, but I can tell you that fewer than 10% of Americans have $1 million net worth, total net worth, not just liquid assets, when they turn 65 years old. So do what you can. As Charlie said, do whatever it takes to start saving that first $100,000 as early as you can. And then if you're successful at that, and I know you will be, I want you to take advantage of when you can retire, think about actually doing it, because you know what? At 60 years old, unfortunately, most of us have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy, active time remaining in front of us. And I want you to squeeze all the juice out of life that you can. And that's what this video is here, is 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. It's one of my most popular videos, almost 1 million views. It's kind of part 2 to this video. I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.